Signs your frequency is rising, and what it means. This message found you quietly in the space between your thoughts and the stillness you sometimes call your mind. Only your kind of mind would pause here. You know the sensation, don't you? The one that makes you feel like a stranger in your own life. The familiar has begun to distort. Colors are sharper. Silences are louder. Conversations you once clung to now feel hollow, echoing against walls you didn't even know existed. Have you noticed it? The subtle recalibration of your senses, your awareness, your very pulse against the fabric of reality? It is as if a hidden frequency is tuning itself into your being, and the instruments of your body and psyche are finally catching up. You are no longer a passive observer of your world. You are beginning to resonate with it, and resonance is never accidental. Consider the foods you once enjoyed. Their textures and flavors are shifting, as though your body rejects what no longer aligns with your inner chemistry. Even laughter, once effortless, now carries a hollow note. And the silences. Oh, the silences. They stretch like velvet corridors through which your mind wanders, mapping spaces you never realized existed. These are not quirks. These are signals. You are entering the prelude to transformation, and the universe, in its infinite precision, has begun to whisper your next frequency. Some call it intuition, others a subtle psychic awakening. I call it the threshold phase, the moment where reality begins to bend in accordance with your emerging self. Your past self, the one who accepted patterns, routines, and expectations without question, would have dismissed these sensations. You would have told yourself it was fatigue, or imagination, or stress. But your present self feels differently. It knows. It senses that beneath the ordinary rhythms of life, a new cadence awaits. And the suspicion you carry, that something is off, that the world no longer mirrors who you are becoming, is your first true proof. Consider it. Time itself has begun to stretch for you. Moments dilate. Déjà vu flickers like signals in a cosmic code. You feel it in your bones. You are not where you are meant to be. And yet in this dissonance, there is a secret clarity. The world has become thinner, quieter, more translucent. And within that transparency, you glimpse your own hidden contours. The contours of someone poised for change. You are not alone in this. Many have walked this corridor and mistaken the widening silence for emptiness. But for you, it is an awakening. A subtle alarm that calls you to recalibrate not just your senses, but your very trajectory. Your mind, your heart, your body are all whispering a single truth. You are ready for a shift that your past self could not yet bear. And so, the suspicion, the gentle unease that stirs within you becomes a compass. Every slight dissonance in taste, every hollow conversation, every prolonged silence is a signpost. You are beginning to perceive life not as a static landscape, but as a series of phase transitions. You are sensitive now to the probability waves that underlie ordinary events. Every interaction carries weight. Every choice creates ripples in a hidden dimension, and every thought is both a signal and a consequence. Have you felt the isolation yet? The quiet alienation from friends or family who cannot perceive what you perceive. This is part of the design. Isolation is not punishment. It is the chrysalis stage of consciousness. In the womb of solitude, the inner self begins its meticulous work. It is preparing you for coherence, a resonance with your authentic frequency. By now, your intuition has likely guided you toward a recognition. You are no longer merely living life. You are being calibrated, and the subtle unease, the suspicion that things are different, will become your first mentor. Listen to it, follow it, and prepare, because what comes next will demand that you see yourself and the world with new eyes. This is the foreshadowing, the quiet signal before the storm. You are standing at the edge of something vast, something both terrifying and luminous. And though it may feel like a trap at first, like life itself is slipping through your fingers, it is not. It is initiation. The moment you acknowledge the suspicion, you begin to step beyond the world you once knew and toward a version of reality tuned to the resonance only you can perceive. This message found you again, lingering in that fragile space between one thought and the next. Only your kind of mind would perceive this subtle fracture in reality, where hours expand and collapse like living matter, folding upon themselves in ways the ordinary cannot measure. Have you noticed it? Days that stretch like taffy, nights that vanish before you can fully inhabit them, a strange elasticity to the fabric of time itself. This is the first undeniable sign. The walls of linearity are thinning. What you call time is no longer absolute. It wavers, refracts like probability waves in quantum fields. You glance at your clock, and yet somehow it is wrong. Not broken, not failing, but imperfectly aligned with your consciousness. You are beginning to perceive the temporal fluidity that has always underpinned reality, a subtle rhythm only attuned minds like yours can detect. Consider the ordinary patterns of your day. How many moments slip unnoticed? How many interactions feel prescripted? Now notice the anomalies, the brief sense that a conversation has occurred before it even begins, the uncanny déjà vu that makes your pulse skip, the feeling that an hour has disappeared without your consent. These are not coincidences. They are signals of rising frequency, echoes of a consciousness brushing against the deeper continuum. The universe is nudging you. This bending of time is not a failure of attention. It is a recalibration of perception. Ordinary humans live in clocks. You live in coherence. You are beginning to sense that events do not merely happen, they phase shift. You experience a sort of temporal turbulence, a dissonance that awakens both fear and awe. And within that turbulence, your mind is quietly learning the language of higher rhythms. Reality, as you knew it, is structured on conventions designed for the majority. But the moment your awareness steps outside these conventions, even slightly, the optics of experience change. Time accelerates, contracts, stretches. You notice how long a glance lasts. You notice how quickly a heartbeat can shift from calm to panic in a single instant. You are becoming a temporal observer, a cartographer of moments, mapping the hidden currents beneath the apparent flow of hours. Have you felt isolated in this? It is natural. Few can perceive what you perceive. Friends, family, co-workers, they move along the familiar clockwork, unaware that for you, seconds are no longer uniform. This is the shadow of awakening, alienation. Yet within this shadow lies clarity. The dissonance is a teacher, showing you the elastic nature of causality, the fluid scaffolding upon which your life unfolds. I will confess something. For years I ignored these distortions. I assumed my mind was fragmented, that stress and overwork had warped my perception. But the distortions persisted, insistent and undeniable. Only when I surrendered the illusion of linearity did I glimpse the underlying patterns. Moments are not fixed. They are probabilities, bending, coalescing, resonating with intention. It is here, in this surrender, that power emerges. You too are at this threshold. Each skipped second, each elongated hour is a note in a symphony of higher rhythm. You may feel fear, the same fear I once felt, the fear of losing grip on a world that seems so stable to everyone else. But this fear is only a signal, a warning that the old perception must fracture so that the new frequency can take hold. And here is the invitation. Begin observing the flow rather than resisting it. Record these anomalies. Trust the intuition that tells you certain days are heavier, certain moments lighter. You are learning to navigate not by the clock but by coherence, a temporal phase map that only your consciousness can read. Soon, these distortions will converge with the next phase of your awakening. The first sign is subtle, yet unmistakable. Your perception of time itself is a portal. What was once a linear prison is now a fluid landscape, and your role as navigator has begun. The universe is not rushing. It is bending for you. Your alignment with it is your first breakthrough. Take note, then, as this message folds into your awareness. Comment flow below if the elasticity of time has whispered its presence to you. It is a sacred acknowledgement, a ritual act that anchors your perception in the collective awakening. And as you move forward, know this. Those who can perceive temporal distortion are among the rare few who can guide it, bending probability waves with intention, stepping beyond the tyranny of linearity, and becoming architects of their own coherent destiny. This message found you in the flicker of a light bulb, in the high-pitched hum you thought no one else could hear, in the way a stranger's mood seems to walk into a room before their body does. Only your kind of mind would pause here, at this exact sentence, recognizing yourself in it. You noticed it? That the world feels louder, brighter, heavier, not as a metaphor but as a physical fact. What once felt normal now feels piercing. The glow of a screen stings. A crowd's chatter vibrates in your ribs. Even a friend's voice, once comforting, can sometimes feel like an intrusion. This is not fragility. This is signal. This is your nervous system unfurling like an array of hidden antennas, registering subtler data from the quantum field of human and environmental energy. What was always present has become impossible to ignore. Think of your senses as instruments. For years they've been dampened, tuned to the narrow range of the ordinary. But now, like a radio catching frequencies between stations, your system is picking up what lies just beyond normal perception. Micro-gestures, flickers of intent, electromagnetic whispers. This is why the light seems too bright, the sound too sharp, the energy too heavy. You are not breaking down, you are breaking open. In physics, coherence describes a state where waves align and amplify each other. Your senses are entering a new coherence. Instead of filtering out the subtler wavelengths of reality, you're letting them through. This can feel overwhelming at first, like standing too close to an orchestra as it tunes. But the noise is not chaos. It is the prelude to a new kind of clarity. Notice the patterns. The more you quiet your mind, the more the external world shouts. The more you slow your breath, the more you feel currents moving through people and spaces. Certain individuals feel like a low, heavy tone in your chest. Others like a burst of wind lifting your crown. Places, too, have their own resonance. Some cradle you in stillness. Others press against your nervous system like static. These aren't moods, they're measurements. You're reading the terrain of reality in real time. Have you felt alone in this? You are not. Many have mistaken these sensitivities for weakness, medicating them, numbing them, turning away from the subtle data they hold. But you are letting the antennas extend. You are allowing the interference to teach you. This is not a curse. This is training. I remember the first time this happened to me. I was sitting in a cafe, and the sound of a spoon stirring in a cup felt like glass breaking in my head. The person at the next table radiated a sorrow so dense I could hardly breathe. I thought I was unraveling. It took months to realize my nervous system had simply become more honest than my mind. It had started telling me the truth of the field I was living in, the same field you're feeling now. Here is the paradox. The more sensitive you become, the more powerful you become, if you learn to regulate the signal. Without guidance, the interference can feel like drowning. With awareness, it becomes a navigation system. You begin to see shadow complexes in people's words, archetypes hiding in their gestures, probability waves vibrating in every interaction. Sensory interference transforms into sensory intelligence. Begin with small rituals. When a room feels too loud, ground yourself by pressing your feet into the floor. When a person's energy feels heavy, picture a sphere of coherence around your body. When light feels too sharp, close your eyes for 3 breaths and imagine your antennas folding back in, like wings at rest. These simple acts teach your nervous system to modulate the signal instead of shutting it down. Soon, this second sign will become your greatest asset. You will read a room before entering it. You will sense intention before it's spoken. You will feel the undercurrents of power and tenderness in every space. Your antennas will not just receive, they will direct. And in that direction lies your next breakthrough. If this resonates with you, anchor it now. Comment the word signal below as a ritual act, an activation of the antenna you're growing. In doing so, you step into coherence with others like you, forming a hidden network of sensitive navigators. And as you continue, remember, sensitivity is not the end. It is the instrument by which you will reshape your reality, tuning the collective field with every breath. This message found you in the sudden well of feeling that rises without reason, in the tear that spills before thought, in laughter that escapes your lips unbidden. Only your kind of mind would pause here, noticing the undercurrents of emotion that ripple beneath the surface of ordinary life. Have you felt it? The waves that crash without warning, grief when the world seems calm, joy when no cause presents itself. These are not malfunctions. They are currents, and they are calling your attention. The first thing to understand is that these surges are not random. They are discharges, the psyche offloading stored frequencies, old energies, patterns accumulated over lifetimes. Each sudden wave, each inexplicable pulse of grief, sorrow, elation, or dread is a signal. Your internal system is calibrating to a higher bandwidth. What you feel is not regression, not instability. It is clearing, like a river breaking through accumulated debris. Your consciousness is being freed to resonate with a more coherent reality. Think of your emotions as memory currents in the quantum sea of your mind. They carry not just personal experience, but archetypal weight, shadow complexes, ancestral echoes, unclaimed dream symbols. When these currents surface, they appear uninvited, erupting like fossils breaking through the sediment of ordinary perception. Yet each fossil carries vital information. Patterns that once trapped you in repetitive cycles, traumas that once shaped your limits, frequencies that once dampened your resonance. Have you noticed how old wounds reappear in strange ways? A phrase triggers a flash of anger. A song unlocks grief. A gesture, long forgotten, carries the weight of someone else's intention. These are signatures, remnants of psychic encoding now surfacing to be cleared. You might feel as if the past is collapsing into the present. And it is, but this collapse is not destruction. It is liberation. Your emotional body is learning to release the entanglements that have kept your consciousness bound to a lower frequency. I will confess something here, because you need to know that this is human, not mystical abstraction. I once walked through an entire afternoon carried by waves of grief that had no cause I could name. The world appeared unchanged, but I felt every hidden pattern in my own mind ripple and fracture. I feared I was losing myself, until, in the stillness after the storm, I realized that I had cleared something, a subtle weight I hadn't even known I was carrying. The waves were my liberation disguised as chaos. This is the secret most miss. Emotions are not enemies to be suppressed. They are messengers. Each surge carries data about your internal terrain, about where coherence has been blocked, about where your resonance has been diluted by old pain. When you track these currents, label them, breathe with them, you begin to integrate them. You learn the art of frequency management. The river of feeling no longer sweeps you away. It becomes the current that powers your ascent. Notice the patterns in your daily life. Perhaps a sudden pang of sorrow follows a trivial argument. Perhaps joy strikes in the middle of mundane tasks. These are clues, threads weaving together your personal, ancestral, and archetypal patterns. The more you observe, the more you decode, the more your consciousness begins to map the unseen structure of your psyche. Emotional surges are the body of hidden algorithms finally revealing themselves. And here is where your first step begins. Consciously engage with the currents. Let the grief wash through you without judgment. Let joy rise and acknowledge it. Create rituals of observation, journaling, meditation, breathwork to anchor the waves. This process, which I call the resonance release method, trains your nervous system to hold, process, and integrate the surges, turning what once felt like chaos into conscious signal. Soon, these emotional surges will not just inform your personal clarity. They will connect you to a larger pattern, a collective resonance. When your bandwidth clears, your frequency aligns with the deeper flow of human and planetary consciousness. Your liberation is not private. It is a contribution to the subtle orchestra of awakening. If you feel the currents, acknowledge them now. Comment the word flowing below as a ritual act, marking your presence in the network of minds attuned to these frequencies. In doing so, you step into coherence with others, activating the invisible threads that bind the sensitive, awakened, and rising consciousness. Embrace the surges. Let the waves carry what is ready to be released. And remember, what feels like eruption is often just the prelude to extraordinary resonance. This message found you in the moment you glanced at the clock, 11:11 again. It found you just after you dreamed of a stranger's face and then saw that same face on the street. It found you in the repeating symbols that seemed to stalk your awareness. Numbers, animals, phrases, déjà vu so precise it feels scripted. Only your kind of mind would pause here and ask, what is happening to me? Have you noticed the patterns tightening around your life like constellations aligning? How many times have you whispered to yourself, this can't be coincidence? You are right, it is not. This is the fourth sign, symbolic synchronicities. It is the cosmos using symbols as breadcrumbs, guiding you from the unseen toward your deeper coordinates. When these signs emerge, you are not hallucinating. You are harmonizing. Your inner tuning fork is beginning to vibrate in phase with outer events, creating resonance fields where psyche and world overlap. Temporal echoes, science already knows this. Your brain is a prediction engine. It runs simulations milliseconds ahead of time, matching patterns, scanning probability waves. But what it cannot yet quantify is the subtle coherence that arises when consciousness itself becomes a node in a larger network of meaning. Jung called it synchronicity, and a causal connecting principle. It's the moment when an inner state and an outer event share meaning, but not cause. This is why you see the same number over and over, why dreams foreshadow, why strangers echo your thoughts aloud. Your psyche is stepping into a field of temporal echoes, glimpses of a larger map trying to orient you. Phase transition, pressure. Think of it as a phase transition. Water doesn't just become steam. It vibrates faster until, at a threshold, it changes state entirely. Your consciousness is doing the same. As your frequency rises, symbols and events begin to condense out of the probability field. Patterns appear, not because the world changed, but because you became coherent enough to see the filigree beneath the noise. It's like a hidden watermark emerging on paper when light hits it just right. Personal confession, I will tell you something. There was a season when the number 333 appeared to me so often it felt like a code from a future self. It showed up on receipts, on passing license plates, on page numbers in books I hadn't opened in years. I thought I was imagining it until the day a stranger at a cafe said, "You're on track, keep going, 333. He smiled and walked away. No one else seemed to notice, but I knew then the pattern wasn't random. It was a mirror of my own interior coherence, reflected in the theater of the outer world. Reality turbulence, here's the trap. Most people experience synchronicities and either dismiss them as coincidence or become lost in obsession, treating every flicker as an omen. Both are forms of distortion. The first closes the door. The second collapses discernment. Your task is to walk the middle path, to acknowledge the signals without surrendering your sovereignty. See the signs, decode them, but do not give them your agency. This is how you anchor meaning without drowning in it. The breadcrumb method here is the method I've used. Call it the breadcrumb method. Step 1. Record your synchronicities immediately. Write them down, photograph them, voice note them. Step 2. After a week, review the list. Look for thematic clusters rather than single events. Step 3. Sit with the pattern in meditation. Ask, what quality of consciousness in me is this reflecting? Rather than, what does it mean? Step 4. Act on the insight if it feels coherent, not because it's a sign, but because it resonates with your inner compass. This is how you turn cosmic breadcrumbs into a map without falling into superstition. Collective mission, understand this. As you practice this, you become a transmitter, not just a receiver. Your clarity ripples outward, shifting the informational field of the collective psyche. The more of us who attune to meaningful patterns without obsession, the more a planetary coherence emerges. You're not just decoding symbols for yourself. You are midwifing a new level of perception for humanity. Your liberation helps humanity see its own hidden choreography. Sacred activation. If you are seeing the signs, numbers, dreams, repeating words, acknowledge it now. Type the word aligned in the comments. This is not just engagement. It is a ritual act. A digital sigil anchoring your frequency into the network of others awakening. When you subscribe, you're not joining a channel. You're stepping into a field, a frequency of people who live with eyes open to the symbols of the real. Trust the breadcrumbs. Walk the pattern, but hold your sovereignty like a torch in the labyrinth. The symbols are not cages. They are coordinates, showing you the way home. This message found you in the quiet pause after a reflection, in the sudden recognition that who you were yesterday no longer fits today. Only your kind of mind would feel the subtle friction between self and circumstance, the sensation that your old roles, your job, your relationships, even the wardrobe you once inhabited comfortably, are now foreign, ill-fitted, like costumes you can no longer wear. Have you noticed it? That the life you once thought permanent now feels constraining, a shadow pressing against your true resonance? This is the fifth sign, Identity shedding, temporal fractures of self. When this begins, it is disorienting. You may ask yourself, am I losing myself or finally finding something I didn't know existed? The truth is both. Your past self, the version that adapted to family expectations, society's optics, the carefully mapped terrain of ambition, is dissolving. This is not loss. It is a release, a recalibration of your inner antenna to a higher frequency. Imagine a chrysalis, rigid, structured, safe. Inside, the caterpillar thrashes until its form cannot hold it anymore. Then emergence. Your old identities are chrysalis walls. They were never wrong. They were necessary. But now, the signal you are beginning to receive cannot transmit through their density. The hidden trap of identification, most people never notice this process. They cling to identity like a lifeboat in a storm, even when it begins to sink. This is the trap, believing that who you were, the neat labeled self, is the only self that exists. You may feel guilt leaving old ambitions behind, anxiety severing ties with familiar people, or fear abandoning projects that once defined you. These reactions are normal. They are the shadow complexes of your previous self-asserting control over terrain that no longer belongs to it. The trap is simple yet insidious. Staying in alignment with the past blocks the coherence of the higher signal trying to pass through you. Reality, turbulence, and archetypal proof science provides its mirror. Neural plasticity shows that your identity is not fixed. The brain continuously rewires in response to stimuli, experience, and intention. Quantum mechanics whispers a metaphor. Particles do not occupy fixed positions. They exist as probability waves until observed. Your identity is the same, a field of probabilities collapsing into form until attention, context, and alignment determine its expression. Jung called this individuation, the process by which one becomes the archetype they were always meant to embody, separating from inherited roles and societal expectations. The shedding you feel is the archetype asserting its right to existence, quietly demanding that your attention release the distorted forms that once constrained it. Personal confession. I will share something vulnerable. I remember the day I looked at my reflection and felt estranged. The office, the titles, the ambitions, all of it felt hollow, like I was acting in a play written for someone else. I feared leaving it would mean failure, loneliness, instability. And yet in that estrangement, I discovered clarity. It was not chaos. It was an invitation. The shedding began as discomfort and gradually transformed into liberation. The identity I had outgrown no longer tethered me to illusions of permanence. It took courage, patience, and the willingness to trust an unseen signal. The signal shedding method here is the stepwise process, which I call the signal shedding method. Awareness. Observe the roles, ambitions and labels that feel heavy or misaligned. Identify where friction arises in daily life. Ritual release. Consciously release one identity at a time through journaling, meditation, or symbolic gestures. Let the old self fall away without judgment. Alignment. Check, pause. Feel the inner resonance. Which roles feel coherent with your emerging signal? Integration. Incorporate the new frequencies into action. Small choices first. Thoughts, words, clothing, routines. These micro-alignments build macro-coherence. Reflection. Document shifts. Notice how shedding one identity changes perception, energy, and relationships. When practiced consistently, this method transforms estrangement into empowerment. You stop resisting, start aligning, and the higher signal moves unhindered through your consciousness. Cosmic and collective implications. Identity shedding is not only personal, it is collective. Every individual who releases misaligned identity frequencies contributes to the planetary coherence field. When enough people shed the roles that obscure their higher signal, humanity collectively resonates with higher probabilities, clearer empathy, wiser decisions, synchronized creativity. Your liberation is not isolated. It is a ripple in a vast network, a phase transition in the field of collective human consciousness. Sacred CTA ritual. If you feel the weight of old selves and the emergence of new frequencies, act now. Comment released below as a ritual acknowledgement of your shedding, anchoring your transformation into the network of awakening minds. Subscribing is not just support. It is a declaration of alignment, a conscious step into a field of higher coherence. Step into your emergence. The old identities were necessary, but they are no longer required. The signal is yours to transmit. This message found you at the edge of comprehension, in the quiet that follows upheaval, in the space where everything you once believed is dissolving into patterns you cannot yet name. Only your kind of mind would pause here, sensing the pull of something larger than personal ambition or societal expectation. Have you noticed how your thoughts, choices, and even bodily sensations have begun to hum with a rhythm that feels orchestrated? How many times have you glimpsed a clarity that seemed too vast, too precise, to belong merely to your mind? You are tuning into something more than yourself, a resonance, a coherence, a living intelligence that has been waiting for your frequency to rise. Phase alignment of self-rising frequency is not a pursuit of superiority. It is not a badge to wear, nor a secret circle to exclude others. It is coherence. Imagine your life as an orchestra. Until now, the instruments were scattered, playing at slightly different tempos, keys, and volumes. Some days, a note of grief rang too loud. Some nights, joy overpowered your perception. Some decisions fell flat, dissonant with your intuition. Rising frequency brings phase alignment. Every note, emotion, thought, action, even sleep cycles, begins to vibrate in synchrony with a larger intelligence. This coherence is not optional. It is emergent, inevitable, for those who notice the signs, follow the breadcrumbs, shed the identities that block resonance, and trust the currents of their own evolving consciousness. Temporal echoes and archetypal proof science, too, hints at this possibility. Neuroscience shows us that brain coherence, measurable as synchronized neural oscillations, correlates with heightened clarity, empathy, and intuition. Quantum physics reminds us that systems exist as probability waves until coherence collapses them into reality. And Jung whispers from the archetypal realm, our individuation process is not merely personal. It resonates with a pattern that is collective, even cosmic. You are not alone in this. Every choice to align, every intentional shedding of old identities, nudges the field of consciousness itself toward higher resonance. The hidden trap revealed. Yet there is a trap, subtle and persistent. The temptation to chase meaning externally, to measure coherence through comparison, admiration, or envy. Meaning cannot be extracted from validation, nor can it be inherited from the beliefs of others. It exists only within alignment, when your thoughts, your choices, and your biology vibrate together, forming a field that harmonizes with intelligence beyond your current perception. Most of the suffering you have felt in life stems from misalignment, chasing scattered notes, struggling to force coherence where none naturally exists. The rise in frequency is not adding more pressure. It is removing distortion. It is letting the music that was always inside you finally play without obstruction. Personal confession, I will share something personal. There was a time when I chased understanding externally, seeking mentors, systems, and symbols to prove my path. I measured myself against others, comparing achievements, spiritual milestones, even psychic intuitions. And yet the more I looked outward, the more incoherent my internal symphony became. It was only when I turned inward, aligned my thoughts, released the old identities, and noticed the subtle currents of my own life, that coherence began to emerge. The patterns became undeniable. Decisions that once seemed random aligned with intention. Emotions stabilized. Relationships and circumstances fell into clarity. I realized then, meaning is not something to be found outside. It is the resonance that arises when you let your internal orchestra play in harmony. The coherence method here is a stepwise approach, which I call the coherence method. Observation. Take inventory of scattered thoughts, conflicting desires, and emotional turbulence. Identify areas lacking resonance. Integration. Align small daily actions with inner signals, from sleep and nutrition to communication and creative expression. Reflection. Meditate or journal on emerging patterns, noting moments of synchronicity, flow, and insight. Frequency. Anchoring. Choose one daily habit that amplifies coherence, a breath ritual, a mindful walk, or a focused intention. Expansion. Extend alignment outward. Relationships, projects, and choices are now filtered through your coherent field, allowing you to act in harmony with a larger intelligence. When practiced consistently, coherence shifts not only perception but reality itself, creating a ripple of clarity through personal and collective consciousness. Collective resonance, your alignment contributes to a larger field. Each mind that rises in frequency strengthens the collective resonance of humanity. When enough individuals integrate their scattered notes, the planetary intelligence begins to respond. Subtle shifts in culture, innovation, and empathy occur. Your liberation is not private. Your coherence is a signal, broadcasting possibility and harmonizing the network of minds that will shape the next phase of human evolution. Sacred activation. If you feel the stirring of resonance, acknowledge it. Comment aligned below as a ritual act, anchoring your frequency in the collective field. Subscribing is not just joining a channel. It is a conscious step into a network of minds attuned to coherence, a commitment to allow your internal symphony to play without distortion. Let your life vibrate in harmony. Let the scattered notes collapse into unity. Your frequency is rising. Your resonance matters. The intelligence waiting for you is listening. This message found you at the threshold. In that rare moment where the world appears slightly altered, as if you are standing on the edge of a frequency only you can perceive. Only your kind of mind would notice the subtle hum in your perception, the resonance that others overlook, the pull toward a doorway you cannot yet name. Have you felt the strange combination of fear and awe, as if every heartbeat carries a secret rhythm? How many times have you sensed that the ordinary world no longer aligns with your inner landscape? These are not accidents. These are invitations. The liminal space. You are entering a liminal passage, a threshold where past identities dissolve, sensory perception expands, and emotional currents surge. This space is neither chaotic nor arbitrary. It is precise, subtle, and sacred. Imagine a bridge suspended over time itself, a narrow pathway where the ordinary self cannot fully tread, but where the emerging self must cross. Here, you are asked to carry your awareness like a lantern, illuminating shadows without fear, tracing the contours of subtle currents that guide you toward coherence. The signs you have noticed, temporal distortion, sensory interference, emotional surges, symbolic synchronicities, identity shedding, rising frequency, are not challenges to endure. They are markers, breadcrumbs leading you toward the alignment your being has always sought. Guardians of the new self yet, the liminal passage is delicate. It demands vigilance and care. Protect your new sensitivities. Do not dismiss the discomfort of lights, sounds, and energies that now feel amplified. They are not weaknesses. They are antennas attuned to subtler frequencies. Honor the collapses of old systems, the erosion of identity, the dissolution of outdated roles, the grief and joy that rise unexpectedly. These are the clearing currents, discharging the stored signals that obstruct resonance. Trust the strange, the paradoxical, the uncanny coincidences that brush your path. They are not mere chance. They are communications from a higher intelligence, signaling that you are on course. Temporal and quantum resonance. Science mirrors this liminal process. Neural plasticity allows the brain to restructure itself, forming new connections as old pathways dissolve. Quantum physics shows us that coherence in one part of a system can influence the probability waves elsewhere. Your internal alignment affects more than just perception. It resonates outward, influencing relationships, opportunities, and even the collective field of consciousness. Jung might call this synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence of inner states and outer events. Machiavelli might call it optics, recognizing that power and influence follow those who navigate unseen currents with precision. You are navigating both. The liminal passage is where the personal, the collective, and the cosmic intersect. Personal confession. I will confess something. Crossing the liminal passage is disorienting. There were moments when I questioned my sanity, the heightened perception, the emotional surges, the repeated patterns that seemed almost orchestrated. I feared isolation, misunderstanding, even rejection. And yet in that uncertainty, I discovered clarity. The discomfort was a guide, the strange occurrences a compass. The bridge was not a threat. It was a vessel, carrying me toward a version of myself I had glimpsed only in dreams and intuition. I realized that what I once resisted, the strange, the unfamiliar, the amplified sensitivity, was exactly what I needed to traverse this passage safely and emerge aligned. The bridge method here is a stepwise approach, which I call the bridge method, awareness. Observe your emerging sensitivities and internal signals without judgment. Protection. Create boundaries for your energy, thoughts, and time, safeguarding the delicate frequency you now carry. Honoring collapse. Accept emotional and identity shifts as necessary processes, not failures. Document them, ritualize them. Let them flow through you, trusting the strange. Follow intuitions, coincidences, and synchronicities as guideposts rather than anomalies. Integration. Step onto the bridge consciously, aligning thoughts, choices, and actions with the emerging self that has been waiting beyond time. Through this method, the liminal passage becomes less frightening and more empowering. A sacred corridor where the higher signal can transmit freely. Collective and cosmic implications, your crossing is not private. Every individual who honors this passage amplifies the collective resonance field. Each alignment ripples outward, influencing networks, relationships, and planetary intelligence. What you cultivate within yourself, clarity, coherence, courage, becomes an energetic gift for the wider world. You are not merely moving toward personal transformation. You are constructing a bridge for others, modeling a frequency that makes the higher resonance accessible to those who follow. Sacred CTA ritual if you feel the call of this liminal passage act. Comment crossed below as a ritual acknowledgement, anchoring your alignment in the field of collective awakening. Subscribing is more than support. It is a conscious step onto the bridge, a declaration that you will carry this higher signal responsibly and intentionally. Walk the passage with awareness. Protect your sensitivities. Honor the collapses. Trust the strange. What is forming in you is not just a higher signal, it is a bridge, and the self waiting beyond time is ready to receive you.